Parshas Mishpatim. We are in the fifth reading. More laws of justice. Justice. Okay. Loisate mishpat. Do not sate. Do not translates here pervert. Sway justice. Evyoincha berivai, the destitute in his lawsuit. Rashi. Evyoincha, the destitute lashon oive. There's an expression of longing. Shumeduldo, for he is detached. Esoiv l'chol teiva, and he longs for anything that's good. Yeah, till now, I don't know if we've had that term. Have we? Don't know. Usually it's the word ani, which is a poor person. Evyan is even more destitute. Right. So, we had this already, so I don't know why it seems to be a repetition that we had that, for a poor person, you shouldn't, a judge should not pervert the justice because, he's poor. So, this way you figure it's a good way that you can help this person out by, through the law, you'll make him right, even though he's wrong. So that way he gets taken care of. Okay, from a lie you should distance yourself. And naki v'tzadik al tarig, and a naki is a clean, or I guess innocent and acquitted person. Do not kill. Ki lo yatzdik rasha, for I will not exonerate the wicked. Well, this definitely needs explanation. Let's see Rashi. Right, we're going to see something interesting. Naki b'tzadik al tari. So don't kill an innocent or someone who is righteous. How do we know that if one leaves a court convicted and sentenced to death, and someone says, that I'm able to argue in favor and prove his innocence. Right? This person has been convicted and is punishable by the death sentence, right? Been convicted. So, and what do? Now someone says, but I have a point after the judgment has been made that I could argue in his favor. I say, and you return that person to the courtroom and you renew their deliberations. Talmud Loimar, because it says, Vinaki al tare. You do not kill an innocent person. Even though he's not righteous. Even though he was not vindicated in the court. Nonetheless, he's free from the death penalty. Because you have grounds to acquit the person, right? Because he has legitimate proof that the person is innocent from the death sentence. Is that clear? Yeah? So that's what it means that he may not be righteous, and because he was not vindicated in court, but he's innocent. So you do return him back to court in order to vindicate him. How do we know then the opposite, that a person leaves a court and he was acquitted from the death penalty? And someone came after the court case and said, and now he can prove his guilt, argue against him that he is guilty. That in that case, you don't return him to the courtyard to retry him. We just learned this in Rambam and Sanhedrin. And we just learned this. Talmud Loimar, because the verse says, Sadik al Tari, because don't kill the righteous. Shezet Sadiku, because this person was righteous in Sadik Bebasin, because he was vindicated in the court. So therefore, don't kill him. For I will not exonerate a wicked person. It's not incumbent upon you that you return him. Because I will not vindicate him in my judgment. Because if he left the courtroom and he was declared innocent, right? And in fact, he's not innocent, right? He's not innocent. If he left innocent the courtroom, I have many agents that will put him to death, but me says and the death that he deserves to have. So that's the continuation of in the verse, and it says, "Don't kill, because don't worry. This person was exonerated and seemingly should not have been exonerated. I have ways that this person will be. So don't worry about that." Okay. Verse 8. We're good? And don't accept a bribe, don't accept. Don't take. Why? Because bribery blinds the clear-sighted ones, and distorts ways of the righteous. Rashi and 8. Don't take a bribe. Even to judge truthfully. And all the more so to pervert justice, the judgment, right? Even if it is the rightful, shouldn't do it. Why? Because regarding perverting judgment, that's already been said. Mishpat, do not pervert justice. And it's said already. It's said already in Deuteronomy. It's not here. So there it says, don't pervert justice, meaning take a bribe to pervert justice. Here it says, don't take a bribe, meaning take a bribe and you're not perverting justice. You're coming through with the same judgment. Yaver pichim will blind those who can see. Even the Torah scholar who takes a bribe, in the end, his mind will become confused. And he'll forget his learning. And his vision will become dim. I don't know if that means literally or if it means figuratively in Torah. Misalef, and you will make crooked. Ketarguma, they should be understood according to Onkelis, Mekalkel, corrupts. Divrei tzadikim, the words of the righteous. Divrei hamatzdikim, doesn't mean, it means the words that are justified, that are righteous words. Mishpatei emes, judgments of truth. That was what's going to be corrupted. Likewise, Onkelis translates that way, Pisgamim taritzim yisharim, which means upright words will be no longer upright. Verse number 9. And a foreigner, a convert, do not oppress, don't push. Because you know, as nefesh hager, the spirit of the ger, of the foreigner, kigerim, why? Because you were foreigners, hayisem, you were, in the land of Egypt. So we had this already before about the convert, right? But that was about verbal abuse. Rashi, do not oppress a stranger. So Rashi said many places the Torah warns with regard to the convert. Why? Because remember, they don't come from a wholesome place, in the sense that they don't come from a Jewish background. So therefore, they still have that within them, that that upbringing, if you will, or and that makeup. That therefore, if you're going to put pressure on them, you can negatively affect them. As nefesh hager, the soul of the stranger, How hard is it for him when you oppress them? Okay, verse number 10. Shei Shanim seems like the laws over here seem very random. Rashi doesn't pick up on it. I don't think it's a question. Although sometimes he does pick up and explain why one mitzvah is next to the other. But here he doesn't. Sheishanim Tizra, 6 years you should sow as Artzacha your land, but Sapta is Tvuosa, and you should gather its crops. Rashi, Sapta is Tvuosa, Loshin, Hachnasas Abayis. A Sapta means gathering, meaning gathering and bringing it into the house, right? Not to leaving it in the field or in the granary, right? But in the house, which is Sukkot's time, for example. Verse 11. But on the seventh year, Tishmetenu, you have to leave it unattended. Like, remove yourself from it. When the tashta va'achlu evyene amecha, and you have to leave it unattended, withdraw, remove yourself from it. And the needy of your people, they can eat from it. The Yisram Teichal Chayis Asada, and the Yisra means like whatever's left over. Teichal be eaten by the animals, the wild animals of the field. So you should also do for your vineyard and your olive grove. Rashi, Tishmatena. What does it mean unattended? Meaning, Mavida from work. Don't do any agricultural work. Right? Continues Rashi, when Tashta, leave it alone. So first was let go of work, then leave it alone. This is another commandment, eating its fruits after the time of removal. When there's no more species available for animals in the field on the seventh year, any of that species that has been stored must be removed from storage. Right? That connects with when the verse is saying that the leftovers are for the beasts in the field, right? So in other words, you have gathered food. So when there's no more food left in the field for the beast, so now you have to remove it from your home. Davar acher, that's the first explanation. Alternative explanation, they should let go of it from a complete work. Keep going, what does that mean? Charisha v'zriya, plowing and sowing. The Tashim is Zabil and the Kashkash. Should leave it alone from fertilizing and hoeing. Now, the plowing and planting are complete works in that it's necessary for the plant to grow. Fertilizing and hoeing improve the quality of the fruits, but not essential for growth. Aha. So the alternative explanation is that nitashta means to let go. The first word is from complete work, like plowing and sowing. And then when it says nitashta, that leave alone, it means for non-essential work, like fertilizing and hoeing. Because if you don't fertilize or hoe, you can still have crops that grow. That just makes it better. So there's the essential and non-essential. Both things are something that you're not allowed to do in the seventh year or the sabbatical year. That's the alternative explanation. Next Rashi, v'yisram teichal chayis asada. So whatever is left over for the beasts of the field that they should eat. Rashi, lahakish. So this is now comparing the food, meichel evya lemeichel chaya, the food for the poor person to the food of the beast. What's the comparison? Right, because the beginning of the verse, sorry, not in the beginning. Well, yeah, it says, it says that the poor will eat of your people, and then it says the leftovers are for the beast in the field. So there's a connection, one coming after the other. What's the connection? So Rashi says, Just as the beast eats without tithing, so too the poor eat the fruits of the seventh year without tithing. So from here we learn that there is not the law of Meiser, tithing, right? Tithing meaning giving to the Levites 10%. On the seventh year, there is no tithe. Not in others, not just the poor, anybody.
So there's no tithing at all?
No tithing at all.
10th year.
Because you're not allowed, because you're not allowed to take from that, right? You can take from it equally like everybody else, right? You don't have any ownership of the produce on that on the seventh year, right? So it's not even, in a sense, it's not even like yours to be able to tithe. Right? The other 6 years you do have,
Animal?
huh?
A beast, is that a domestic animal too?
No,
Only a wild animal.
because a wild animal is taking from the produce, not that you're giving it; it's taking it without the tithing. Because if it was domesticated, maybe it was tithed already. And so the verse is saying wild animal, because wild animal is taking, not is taking it freely, not being given it. So you should do to your vineyard. The beginning of the verse is speaking about a field of white, meaning of grain, legumes, and the like, right? But and as it says above, Tizra, it's Artzachad that you should sow your land. Okay. Verse 12. 6 days. You shall do your work. And on the seventh day, Tishbais, you shall rest. Laman, in order that there should be also a rest for your bull, chamorcha, your donkey, v'inafish ben moschab ba'ager, and also the bonds, inafish ben, the son of the bondswoman, of the slave woman, ba'ager, and the resident alien. That does not mean here. Ger doesn't mean a convert over here. Right. Let's see Rashi. Well, Rashi will tell us. On seventh day you shall desist. So now Rashi is explaining why is this coming in context to the sabbatical year. Right, Shabbos of because the seventh year, the weekly Shabbos should not be uprooted from its place. That don't say since the entire year is called Sabbath, it's a sabbatical year. So you don't have to observe the weekly Shabbos. No, you have to observe the weekly Shabbos then too. In order that your ox and your donkey should be at ease, give him an ease. Thank you. In order that they be permitted to pluck and eat the grass from the ground. So maybe it's incorrect. Maybe the verse means that you should confine him indoors. So he should not eat the grass on Shabbos. We can refute this by saying, that would not be ease, that would be pain. If you keep your ox in your home, right, or in the corral where there's no place for them to eat, that would be pain. The whole point is to make it easy for them. So therefore, where do you have to keep them? Outside, and they could eat the grass even though you can pluck your food that day. Then Amasecha, the slave woman's son, we're speaking about an uncircumcised slave. Because a circumcised slave, we already know that they have to rest on Shabbos, because they have to keep the prohibitions of the Torah. But this is uncircumcised, they also have to. The Ager, the stranger, Zegar Teishav, this is a resident and alien, meaning this is a non-Jew who's accepted 7 Ochide laws, not a convert. Because a convert has to keep has to keep it, has to keep it, and that we already know that law. And everything that I've said to you, Hishameru, heed, guard it. Hashem Elokim Achim, Taskiru, Lo Yishama Al Picha, and the name of other gods, do not mention them. Lo Yishama Al Picha, that should not be heard on from your mouth about other gods. What does that mean? Let's see Rashi. Kol asher amati alechem tishameru. Be careful of everything that I said to you. La'aseh kol mitzvah say ba'azara. To make every positive commandment an element of a negative commandment. Shekol shmira shebatera, that every time it says to watch, azharahi, it's a negative commandment. B'makom lav, appearing in the place of a negative statement. In other words, what are we saying here? We said rest on Shabbos, right? So now this verse is coming to say that it's putting a negative commandment to it, because rest is a positive commandment. So with that positive commandment is also a negative commandment. Right? Because that's what the word guard means. Loy taskirun, do not mention, shalo yomer loy, that one should not say to another person, Shamor li wait for me by such and such an idol. Or stand with me on the festival day of such and such an idol. Right? So we don't mention, we don't even mention their holidays, we call it kratzmach. Right? We don't call it by their holiday because it's idolatry. Alternatively, what does this mean? So now he's putting the two things together, because be watchful, we said, was putting a negative commandment on a positive. So now he's saying an alternative explanation: be watchful, that all I have said to you, that the name of the gods of others should not be mentioned. This is to teach us that idolatry, the prohibition against idolatry, is important as all of the other commandments combined. And someone who's careful with idolatry is as if they observe all of the commandments. Right? That's why he's putting them together. In other words, he says, be careful of everything I've told you. That's all the mitzvahs, be careful, right? And then it says, only about idolatry. To tell us that if you're careful about idolatry, it's as if you observed all the commandments. That's the alternative explanation. Lo yishama, you should not be heard. I mean, from a non-Jew, al picha, through your mouth. Shaloi taseh shutfazim goy. Don't make a partnership with a non-Jew. V'yishavaloi ba'avei dezara shaloi, and then come and swear by his idolatry when you're going to have a dispute in court, right? You're going to have to put your hand on their Bible, for example, right? So don't do that. So you are going to cause that their idolatry should be mentioned by you. Okay, next. We're good? Okay. 3 festival pilgrimages you should celebrate through the year. Rashi, regolim pa'amim means times. It means, right, that's the context. So we see some, okay. So now we go through the holidays. As Chag HaMatzah is the holiday of Matzah. Yishmar, you shall heed. Shiva, Siyamim, 7 days, Teichal Matzah, you eat Matzah. As I have commanded to the time, the appointed time in the month. In the month of Aviv. Aviv means spring. Right? Appointed time, the ripening of produce. Why? Because you have then went out of Egypt. And don't come empty-handed. Rashi, what does that mean? Empty-handed. Rashi, b'chodesh Aviv, in the month of the first ripening of produce, sha'atuim is males boy be'abeha, for the crop becomes full with its moisture. Lashon acher, another way to understand that word, aviv lashon of, it's related to father. B'chor v'rishon lavashal pedris is the firstborn, the earliest of the months to ripen its fruits. In other words, there's two explanations. One means it's the moisture that becomes, the crop becomes full of moisture, therefore it's becoming ripened. Or it comes from the word father, meaning the father is the first, like the firstborn, meaning it's the firstborn of ripening of fruits, because it's a spring, so it's the first time of ripening. Don't come empty-handed when you come to the holiday. When you come to me, to see me in the holy temple on the festivals, bring a gift. What's that gift? It's called a oila. Oila means an ascent offering. Okay, verse 16. We're good? Following? Yeah, everybody home? All right. Chag HaKotzir, the holiday of harvest, Bikurim Ma'asecha, the first produce of your labor, Asher Tizra, that you will plant basada in the field. The Chag HaOsiv, and this is the festival of ingathering, Bishana She'asbecha, in the year that you gather, Esma Asecha, Mina Sadeh, when you gather the produce from the field. Okay, let's see, Rashi. Two holidays mentioned in one verse over here. Interesting. Chag HaKotzir is a festival of harvest. Chag HaShavuos, Rashi tells us, is a holiday of Shavuos. Bikurim Masecha, it's the first fruits of your labors. Shuvuzman Avos Bikurim, which is the time to bring in the first fruits, is Shavuos time. Because the two breads are brought on Shavuos. That would permit the new crop to be used for meal offerings. Bringing the first fruits to the temple. On that day, the first fruits that are brought when you bring the new meal offering to Hashem on the festival of Shavuos. Continues, Chag HaOsiv. This is the ingathering now. Hu Chag HaSukkos is the holiday of Sukkos. When you gather in your work, Shikol Yemay because the entire summer months, the crop dries out in the field. And around Sukkot time, you gather it into the house because of the rain. The rainy season comes after the Chag, the holiday of Sukkot. As a result, that's why it's called. Amen. 17. Sholish Pamim B'Shana, 3 times a year, Yira is Chuzcha. You should appear, all of your male, the sons, Hashem, the face of your master God. Meaning, this is called Aliyah L'Regel. 3 times a year, you should go to the base of Mikdash. Rashi Sholish Pamim 3 times. Since we're talking about the 7th year, I had to say the festival should not be removed from their place. They're still there, and they still need to be observed by coming. All the males, all the males amongst you, should come up to the temple. You shouldn't sacrifice the blood sacrifice with leavened bread, right? It's speaking about Pesach, right? It doesn't say Pesach, but that's what it means. It's chametz. Chagi ad boker, and you shouldn't leave overnight the chelev, the fats, chagi of my holiday, of my offering, festival offering, right? The baker until the morning. Let's see Rashi. like Sizbach, al chametz. So don't bring a slaughter of the blood of my offering on chametz. So from here we learn that you don't slaughter the Pesach offering on the 14th of Nisan until you destroy all the chametz. Even though chametz should not be eaten on Pesach, Pesach's at nighttime, right? This verse already tells us that you have to get rid of your chametz by during the day on the 14th when you slaughter, before you slaughter your Paschal lamb offering. Right? Is that clear? And they don't eat the fat of my festive offering, remain overnight. Off the altar. Ad boiker until the morning. You might think that if it's left the fat on the altar pyre, that it becomes disqualified if it's left overnight. Talmud Loimer, the Torah tells us otherwise. Because the fire of the altar is all night, and it consumes whatever there. In other words, it should be nothing that should be taken off the pyre. It should all be consumed there. Below yalin, and nor should you leave the fat of the festive offerings remain overnight. What does it mean remaining overnight? It means until when dawn breaks. Because it says until the morning. But the entire night you can take from the floor of the temple courtyard to the altar the entire night. Reishis recorded at Moscha. Last verse. The first Reishis recorded. The first of your ripened fruits at Moscha of your field of the earth. Tavi, bring Beis Hashem to the house of God, Elokecha your God. Do not cook a gedi, a young animal, in its mother's milk. From here we learn about milk and meat. Lots of mitzvahs here. Okay, Rashi in 19. Last Rashi. Reish is recorded at Moscha, the earliest is the first fruits of the land. After Shviz is recorded, even the 7th year. This is all in the category of sabbatical year, right? Because we learn about these mitzvahs elsewhere, like in Parshas Kisova, we learn about first fruits and so on, right? So what are we learning over here? Which seems interesting how the main mitzvah we learn elsewhere. Here we're just learning in the sabbatical year. You also have to do this. You might think that you don't, because after all, it's not yours. No, you're also obligated. Huh? No, first fruits is not tithing. That's different. No, it's called bikurim. So it falls on the obligation of first fruits. That's why it's mentioned here. Reish is recorded at Moscha, the earliest of the first fruits of your land. Ketzad. How were they chosen? So a man would go into his field. He sees a fig that was ripened. He wraps a reed around it as a sign, and he consecrates it as a first fruit. Right? It now becomes the first fruit. And the first fruits are only the 7 species that are stated in the Torah. Eretz Chita Seira, as the verse says, the land of wheat, barley, and grapes, and pomegranates, and dates, and figs, and olives. Should not cook a tender young animal. A calf and a lamb are included in the word gidi. Shein gedi ela lashem vlad rach, because a gedi means just a tender offspring, and not necessarily a goat. People think that it's a goat. No, when it's only a goat, it says gedi a's. And it's proven from several places in the Torah. She calls it gedi. When it writes gedi, sorry, izim. It says gedi izim, so it means a kid goat. Easy. Easy. Gidi stam. So it tells us wherever it says Gidi stam, it means Shnei Gidai Izim. So wherever it says it without a qualification, Av Egel V'Kedvetz V'Mashma means a calf or a lamb is also meant. Shalish Malcolm is Nichtab B'Teira. 3 times in Torah it says, don't cook the Gedi in the mother's milk. Why 3 times? Echad L'Yisrael Achila, 1 is telling you it's a prohibition against eating milk and meat. Echad L'Yisrael Hana, 1 tells you that can't have pleasure, derive any benefit from milk and meat, from the mixture. And 1 for the act of cooking. You're not allowed to do that. Psh, we gotta
Ask a
finish.
question?
Yeah, sure.
So, Bikurim have to be taken in the.
Oh, yeah, okay.